Hey everybody, Joel Niemeyer here. Recently, 30th anniversary of the First Light radio program. 30 years on KARP, not quite as long on KDUZ, but 30 years. We got the host and Pastor Tom Rakow here with us. Good day to you.
Great to be with you, Joel. And 30 years is a long time. We've seen the technology change. When I started out, I would queue up little cassette tapes for the music.
Sure.
And then, of course, we moved into the CDs. And now it's thumb drives with things downloaded that we put it together.
Well, and maybe you can start there, because 30 years ago, how'd you get this idea to start this First Light radio program?
Well, what's interesting, I started pastoring at Grace Bible Church 34 years ago. I've since retired, but we're still doing the program, and as they do a pastoral search. And what happened is my wife suggested that we do a radio program. We had a meeting in which individuals could come up with any idea, and somebody also suggested the radio program there. But my wife did some research, and we ended up we didn't have a name for it or anything like that. And we've had interviews, and usually 3 songs has always been the rule for us, and a message or interviews. And it's been a lot of fun too. And I think we've had some interest. Sometimes, in fact, my wife just told me this week that she was at the dentist, and one of the person there said, the hygienist said, I was driving to Dassel on Sunday, and we were riding up, and I heard your voice. You were on, and we'll find out that people have been listening for years that we don't know have been listening for years. It's always great when we find out.
Well, on that note, any memorable shows, and anything you remember over the good or bad, I would guess, if you want to talk about it.
Well, the first show had 3 names. And so what happened is, at that time, there was a group of people who wanted the church to do outreach. But believe it or not, back then there were people who did not want that. So it actually started from our Sunday school, and we, on a given Sunday, if anybody wanted to be a part of the radio program, we took up a special offering. I remember that offering was $800. Which was amazing back then, 30-some years ago, for our little church. And so it was really clear. But, over the first, we came up with a name, and then a radio station contacted us and said, we think we already have a program that name. Well, there's lots of programs by that name. It was going to be a Daybreak. And so then we decided it was going to be Daybreak with the Sun. So I did this interview, and it was Daybreak with the Sun. Well, then the radio station said they didn't like that. So we named it First Light. So that first program, the intro, and so we had 3 different names in the program. But one of the things that has happened, I interviewed a guy named Joe Dallas, who is actually quite famous, but he was a homosexual pastor who for 2 years, and then he was on the Jones River Show, ABC News, all of these things, because he's just very eloquent. And so I did an interview with him. And his life was changed, and he helps people who are struggling with different issues. I think of Russell Thornberry, who is editor of Buckmasters magazine, and he gave such a powerful testimony of how his dad came to know the Lord years later, who was like a derelict. And then there's people that have gone to be with the Lord that were in the congregation where I interviewed them, and I still remember their powerful testimonies of how Jesus Christ changed their life.
Well, one thing that I kind of like about the program, because I haven't been involved all 30 years. I'm only about 23 years here at the radio station. Because there's, to give people a little peek behind the radio curtain, there's a lot of different religious programs available to us radio stations that we can do But what I think is unique is you kind of use personal stories. You talk a lot about hunting and fishing and what you've done. And to me, that means more rather than a minister preaching, which is fine, to use real stories, which is what you do.
Yeah. And I think when so we had an individual who listened for many years, and he's a great guy, a guy named Glenn, and he used to drink a 6-pack during the course of our half-hour program, which is really putting him down. And then he would go to his church, but he listened for years. But then that change came. But the thing he said if he tuned in because he's an outdoors person, and so if it was talking about hunting or fishing, and that's kind of where I've always been. I grew up that way, and I know for some people it may be a turn off or they don't relate to it. For some people, golf. But I'm not a golfer, and so if I tried to talk about golf, I'd sound pretty phony. but I see the Lord involved in all these things. Church is important. I mean, we are to be faithful, and in being with other believers. We're not to forsake the assembling of ourselves, as the manner of some, the right book of Hebrews says. But some of my most profoundest experiences have been outdoors, where God has revealed himself to me in a unique way, or I see something in nature that I just have to praise the Lord for.
Now, you mentioned each show usually has your messages and then 3 songs.
Yeah.
So how do you pick those? Because here's another peek behind the curtain. Yeah. We've never picked the songs. It's always been you. So
yeah. And it's interesting how the music has changed as time has gone on. I used to play quite a bit of bluegrass and stuff like that, but a lot of it has to do with the music that I love. For example, one of my favorite groups is the Newsboys. So the Newsboys are on a lot, but there are certain messages that really speak to me. There's a song during a difficult time in my life. His name is, I can't remember his name, but it's called Tell Your Heart, Danny Gokey, Tell Your Heart to Beat Again. And if you Google that, you'll find it. And Danny lost his wife. I didn't know him. I don't know him, but she died of a heart like in her 20s. But he had kind of shut off everything. And he tells a story about a surgeon that a pastor was watching. The surgeon was invited to watch, and they'd done open heart surgery on this woman, but she was not responding. And the surgeon bent down next to her ear, and he said, "We've done everything we can. Now you must tell your heart to beat again." And suddenly her heart started beating. And we can become hardened and calloused. And so that song I played quite a few times during a time of difficulty for me. And I believe that there are other people that are struggling. They may be going through a loss. They may be going through marital problems or financial problems or physical problems. And the thing is, God uses that music in my life, and I'm hoping he uses it in the lives of others as well.
And then I will wrap up because we got to get going here. But not to put you on the spot. Yeah. Future of the radio, is there 30 more years of First Lights?
Well, I retired in August 16th of 2023. And I told the church, and they felt it was important for this program to keep going. So I believe that the next pastor, he'll probably have a different flavor. I'll do it as long as they want me to. But the idea was they're in their pastoral search, and pass the baton. But if he doesn't want the baton, then I'll carry the baton until the Lord takes me home, or the radio station says, "We don't want to listen to that old guy anymore."
Well, I can say from our side that's probably not going to happen. But we appreciate you coming on.
I really appreciate our local radio station. We are blessed to have you, Joel, and the folks here have become great friends. John Kerrigan, John Mons,
longtime producer for you.
Yeah, and so those guys, in fact, John Kerrigan, we're close friends because we spent for over 20 years, I think 25 years, we got together an hour a week. Yeah. So, yeah.
Nice to see. Tune Tom's show in. It's 7:30 KARP FM 106.9, 11:30 on KDUZ AM 1260 FM 96.5.
Thank you, Joel. Appreciate it.